Citizen, legal resident, and illegal alien populations will still be counted under the 2020 census thanks to Trump's executive order. Hello, this is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button. Today we're going to be talking about the 2020 census again in the aftermath of the Supreme Court's decision that we couldn't have a citizenship question on the 2020 census. I mean, it's been included in majority of censuses. There's no reason why we shouldn't have been able to ask it this time. But nonetheless, the Supreme Court went in and said that there was not a reasoned basis for including a citizenship question this time from the Department of Commerce under the terms of the Administrative Procedures Act. It was a 5-4 decision. John Roberts, Chief Justice of the Supreme Court, sided with the liberal justices in throwing out this particular census question on citizenship. They ruled pretty much that you can include a citizenship question, but you have to meet up with APA guidelines on when you do so. So it has to be a real reason, basis, rationale. They gave one. They said they were going to enforce the Voting Rights Act, but that wasn't good enough. So what President Trump is now doing is he's issued an executive order so that the basically the census is still going to gather citizenship, legal resident, and illegal alien population data. They're just not going to include it on the census questionnaire. And so, what is Trump going to ask for? Well, he's ordered, quote, all agencies shall promptly provide the Department of Commerce the maximum assistance permissible consistent with law in determining the number of citizens, non-citizens, and illegal aliens in the country, including by providing any access that the department may request to administrative records that may be useful in accomplishing that objective. In addition, the order is asking for specific types of information. So, to be given to the census so they can count it. National level file of lawful permanent residence and naturalizations from DHS and U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, F1 and M1 non-immigrant visas from DHS and ICE, national level file of Customs and Border arrival departure transaction data from DHS, refugee and asylum visas from DHS and the Department of State, Worldwide Refugee and Asylum Processing System, national passport level passport application data from state, master beneficiary records from the Social Security Administration, and CMS Medicaid and CHIP information system from the Department of Health and Human Services. With all of this, they'll be able to determine how many people are, and combined with the questionnaire, we'll be able to determine how many people are in the United States, how many of them are citizens, how many of them are legal residents, and how many of them are here illegally, probably by overstaying their travel visas and via other information that is available. Now, so citizens and illegal aliens are still going to be counted in the census, but it will not be accomplished with a question on the census questionnaire. And again, that's thanks to John Roberts and the Supreme Court. Trump's trying to make good with what he can do under the Supreme Court ruling here. And I think getting something done here is wise, and he's doing what he has to do. And this may even be better when you consider the response rates on past censuses. So, for example, in 2010, only 74% of people responded to the questionnaires. And that, so you have a 74% response rate. That means 26% were not responding of households. That's a lot of people, millions of people. And so, and also in 2000, when they did the question on the census form, there was a citizenship question. It was not on the short form. So this was the long form. The long form was only given to 17% of households. And so the citizenship question from that, is this person a citizen? That was not included in most of the census forms. 83% of them didn't have the question. And so you see here, on the short form, it was name, sex, age, relationship, Hispanic origin, race, and tenure in their house. And then on the long form, it did include the citizenship, place of birth, and year of entry information. Now, the Trump 2020 census was going to take care of that and just do a short form that would include the citizenship question. And so that it was going to, right here, it says the 2020 decennial census program comprised of the 2020 census and the ACS will provide an official count through a short form only census: age, sex, race, Hispanic origin, relationship, tenure, and citizenship, as well as a portrait of communities counted across the nation through data collected by ACS. And so that is what it was. But even with the 2020 census questionnaire, there wasn't going to be any, you don't have to show your birth certificate. You don't have to give your social security number. They take your names of all the people in your household. And then they get on the long form. They were asking specific questions. In this case, you were going to have short form questions that were just going to be very general information. So there was no requirement to prove that you were a citizen. So why would this be a problem? Well, it might call into question the reliability of the questionnaire, because it relies solely, like past censuses, on the honesty of those taking the questionnaire. And so if you're an illegal immigrant, you would have a perverse incentive to lie or simply not to answer the questionnaire. So if anything, the questionnaire might have been undercounting the amount of illegal aliens here. And perhaps what we're doing now, what Trump's doing, could have a better response rate, or at least have a better sense of accuracy. In remarks by the president on July 11th, where he was talking about the executive order, Trump said, quote, "The Census Bureau projected that using previously available records, it could determine citizenship for 90% of our population or more." Well, that's better than 74% response rate on a questionnaire. So maybe we're better off with this outcome ultimately, because we do have an opportunity to get the official count here. And so it's going to be in the census. You're going to get a number of citizens, non-citizens, and illegal aliens in the country. And Trump explained, the executive order explains why that it had to be this way. It says, quote, "The court's ruling, however, has now made it impossible as a practical matter to include a citizenship question on the 2020 decennial census questionnaire. After examining every possible alternative, the Attorney General and the Secretary of Commerce have informed me that the logistics and timing for carrying out the census, combined with delays from continuing litigation, leave no practical mechanism for including the question on the 2020 census form. And nevertheless, we shall ensure that accurate citizenship data is compiled in connection with the census by other means." And so this the pivot here comes down after the Supreme Court shot down inclusion of the 2020 census. As a note here, I want to point out that this has nothing to do with apportionment. The census counts the number of persons, and congressional House of Representatives and Electoral College apportionment is based upon the number of persons. And this goes back to 2016. There was a Supreme Court ruling before Trump was elected that said that for the purposes of districting, non-citizens could be counted as a part of the census. And so that it's pretty clear that a lot of people look at the census and say, if we could count citizens, then we could figure that out. But I think the Supreme Court, this was a unanimous decision saying non-citizens can be counted in the census. And so, and in any event, the Congress would have to change the law or the Constitution to provide for a citizen-only census for the purposes of apportionment. That's not what was going to happen in the 2020 census. I'm just clarifying that because there's some confusion about who is counted in the census towards apportionment, and how does the citizenship question on the census affect apportionment? And the answer is no, it doesn't, because they count the total population for apportionment. And even with including the citizenship data under the Trump executive order, I think that you're still going to wind up with the total population going towards apportionment. So it's just important to clarify that information so that people are not getting the wrong idea and about this. Now, to the why this might be better, I think that the new executive order has a better chance of withstanding court challenges. It's not going to include the question, so it's a brand new policy where they're going to go. This Commerce Department had shot down using the data from other means by other agencies when they were considering how to gather this information. So now they're saying, okay, we're not going to do the citizenship question. We're going to go with this data from other agencies. And this time, the executive order takes great pains to provide the reasoned analysis for the purposes of Section 1 under purpose. It goes through all of the reasons and the analysis of why the government needs this information. And it's for budgeting purposes, public benefits. The Voting Rights Act is important. You want to know where citizens and non-citizens and illegal aliens are located. But here's some of the key reasons they provide. Quote, data on the number of citizens and aliens in the country is needed to help us understand the effects of immigration on our country and to inform policymakers considering basic decisions about immigration policy. So Congress is considering immigration reform right now, as is President Trump, and they want to have that information so that they can make a reasoned determination. Here's an example. Amnesty is one of the policy proposals from Democrats in Congress. They want to give citizenship to every single illegal alien in this country. Well, we should probably find out how many illegal aliens are in the country before we say, let's do amnesty or let's not do amnesty. It could be tens of millions of people, and you could wind up with a lot of people registering for Democrats. Texas might not be able to vote Republican anymore in the Electoral College. And so you'll never have another Republican president again. So maybe we should count the number of illegal aliens here before we say, let's do amnesty. Here's another reason, quote, the lack of complete data on numbers of citizens and aliens hinders the federal government's ability to implement specific programs. For example, the lack of such data limits our ability to evaluate policies concerning certain public benefits programs. So you have welfare going to illegal immigrants. In many cases, that's illegal. Housing and urban development. Secretary Ben Carson is saying that, we're going to enforce federal law that says public housing can't go to illegal aliens. And so it would be helpful to have this information for, say, for example, enforcement programs by HUD on public housing so that we don't have homeless American veterans sleeping on the streets while illegal aliens are living in public housing. That's not fair. And also the government wants, quote, data identifying citizens will help the federal government to generate a more reliable count of the unauthorized alien population in the country. Data tabulating both the overall population and the citizen population could be combined with records of aliens lawfully present in the country to generate an estimate of the aggregate number of aliens unlawfully present in each state. Now, obviously, not having the question on the census survey is it's not ideal. I think we would prefer both the data to be tabulated by the agencies and for the question to be asked, are you a citizen? I think that's an important question. I think they should be asking those questions. But if the Supreme Court's not going to allow it, President Trump's got to do what he's got to do to get this data to the federal government. I mean, you're going to get the same information, so it's just a question of how we get it. Now, opponents will attempt to call the new executive order a post hoc rationalization, but because we're not doing the citizenship question, it's a new policy. They're going with agency data instead. And so I think that this will hopefully reset the clock in terms of the Administrative Procedure Act's requirements. We'll see. And I'll leave you with the close here. If at the end of the day, the Census Bureau is able to come up with an accurate estimate of citizens, legal residents, and illegal aliens, which it has done in the past, and it will have accomplished its job. If the same data can be gleaned from means other than the questionnaire, then why not? President Trump is doing everything he can to ensure that the data is collected. It's better than nothing. That's the commentary. This is Robert Romano, Vice President of Public Policy with Americans for Limited Government, dailytorch.com. Hit that subscribe button, ring the bell for notifications, and have a great day.